All right, so let's talk about the patch 19.2 that came out yesterday. There was a lot involved in this. I'm not going to talk about the Battleground stuff. I'm more interested in the standard changes that I think people have been asking for, mainly around Demon Hunter stuff. There's also some dual stuff. The dual stuff is great. The Battleground stuff is cool, sure. But that's not what this video is about. So let's talk about this. What has been changed? Blade Dance costs 3 mana now. Shard Shadow Mystic now costs 4 mana. Dreadlord's Bite, the weapon used in Aggro Demon Hunter, now has 2 attack, down from 3. Everything else remains the same for it. Bran has been changed to 8 mana. Voracious Reader to 3. And Polkelt to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 card changes. And how many of them are affecting Demon Hunter? 1, 2, 3, and arguably 4. And this in some decks as well, 5. So a lot of these are primed at Demon Hunter. That's good. Listening to the feedback, and I'm sure you can see from statistics internally that Demon Hunters have been way overplayed on ladder. All types of archetypes too, not just, aggro. I'm sure aggro, soul, and combo have been very, very prominent over the past little while. So, what do I think about these changes? I think in general, fine-tuning mana the mana cost of cards is fine, without obviously killing the card. Making a huge change to a card can definitely feel kind of bad in terms of how do they word it? The feel of the class or whatever. So I'm not opposed to 1 mana bumps or changes. So Blade Dance to 3 mana, I think that's reasonable, but this card is still just giga busted. And I'll explain why this is a problem still. Again, it's fine for classes to have very powerful tools and cards, but there has to be a downside or some sort of weakness, right? You can't have the best of everything and then have that be okay. Now, changing it to be a bit more expensive does take away from that strength, but I still think this card is busted even at 3 mana. Will you lose more games now because Blade Dance is 1 more mana? Yes, but that I don't think is the main issue with what this card does. This card is just so incredibly powerful in a class that wants to use its attack or a weapon or a hero, whatever, as much as possible, where they're already gaining attack through Twin Slice weapons, Relentless Pursuit, Lapidary, whatever, hitting you in the head, and this one card can basically full clear a board, having them ignore your board completely. It's just gone, and they hit you in the head. So now, not only do you have your board wiped, you're halfway dead now. You're dead to like random burst they have, and it's just not a good feeling, right? This one card does way too much. If it was harder to activate, let's say we only had Twin Slice and 1 weapon available to proc this. Okay, the effect is still very, very powerful, but it becomes more inconsistent, and that's okay. The frequency at which this is used in a game, or how should I word this? How often it's just good is too high. It's just way too good, way too often. Even at 3 mana, that'll change it a little bit, but that still won't fix the problem. Shard Shadow Mystic. This is really only useful in... I'll come back to talk about this, but I'm just going to talk about the other changes and then why I don't like these as the only changes. Shard Shadow Mystic is only used in Soul Demon Hunter, and this hits the deck as well on top of the Blade Dance. I think with just this change, this would have been an awful update, so I'm glad that they at least touched a few different things, so it's hit in the decks are hit in multiple different ways, which is, again, not a bad way to do this. I do not think this was these were the exact changes that needed to happen, though. Regardless, if these are the changes that happen, I'm still happy with this. This coming down on 3 shut down aggro very, very often. This way, you're gonna struggle a bit more until you get to turn 4, and then maybe on turn 4, you still clear the board, but you've taken a bit more damage now, and you're susceptible to dying. All right, cool. Moving forward. Dreadlord's Bite. I don't care about this card at all. Why was this nerfed? Maybe they had internal statistics saying that in the aggro deck, whenever they played this, it was just really, really good. But whenever my opponent played this card, I didn't, throw my hands up in the air and say, oh my god, they had Dreadlord's Bite. Oh, it's the worst. I don't know. So maybe they wanted to hit an extra card in Aggro Demon Hunter, and this was just the thing. Or maybe there's something in the future that they're planning for. I don't know. This change doesn't make too much sense to me. So I'm not sure about this. I don't really care about this change. Bran. Instinctively, Highlander Hunter didn't seem super oppressive, and especially in Worlds, we saw that it was actually one of the decks that struggled the most in people's lineups. But if we check to see, I don't have it open here, but on Twitter, I believe one of the developers said that they preemptively changed this because with the rest of the changes, Hunter would have a better matchup spread and would become more popular. So a preemptive change to Down and Timber Bran is something that they wanted to do. That's fine. Makes a lot of sense. Cool. This change, fine. Love it. Good reasoning. Doesn't kill the card. All right, cool. You have to change the way the deck's built because of this, but that's okay. That's fine. Voracious Reader. This felt very impressive in a couple different decks. One is Aggro Hunter and Aggro Demon Hunter, which is kind of funny. They're both hunters, but alas, this felt way too powerful. At 3 mana, I think this is an example of a good card to change with a 1 mana bump because the effect is still very powerful. The stat line really doesn't matter. Like, it's meant to be a weak stat line in terms of aggressiveness because of what the effect does. And one of the worst things that kept happening is that your opponent runs out of cards and they play Voracious Reader, and so often it's just perfect mana utilization to empty their hand. And this way they can't do that. So this, on average, I can't give you numbers, but they'll probably maybe draw 1 or 2 less cards per game because of Voracious Reader, which is, I think that's a nice little fine-tuned change. Polkelt. Polkelt, holy crap, this was such an interesting card, and it still is. Very heavily changed the way that people build decks, and really makes people think what cards actually can fit in your deck, how they belong, and how to look at the curve. Changing this to 5 mana obviously makes the game plan a bit slower. It doesn't completely kill it, and same thing. The effect is still very powerful. People are still going to run this, but it makes some of the decks a little bit weaker, and that's fine. So these changes, cool. Same thing with Bran. These changes, I'm still not happy. Oh, is that it? Yeah. These changes, I'm still not content with. Why? What is the main card that, just outside of Blade Dance, feels the absolute worst to play against? And it also affects the consistency of these 2 cards, and arguably this as well. The one thing Demon Hunter has that most other aggro decks don't have is super consistent card draw. We have Acrobatics, we have Skull. Acrobatics isn't the card I'm talking about. We have Skull of Gul'dan. We have cheap ways to draw cards and have attack. We have Chaos Strike. We have Still Stepper. Demon Hunter, not just aggro Demon Hunter, has so many good tools to draw cards and do damage that they very consistently draw so much of their deck and kill you while removing your board as well. It's just incredibly oppressive. In aggro Demon Hunter, it's a little bit different because they don't run Blade Dance. But Skull is just so oppressive. A card that has this much aggression, even in the slower lists, and by aggression I just mean they hit you very hard. Obviously, aggro Demon Hunter hits you like right off the gates, but Soul Demon Hunter over the course of 2 or 3 turns will just demolish you as well. And why? Because they draw so much of their deck so consistently, and their tool set is so powerful that adding the consistency to that tool set makes it feel literally unbeatable in so many different instances. That's not to say the deck is, impossible to beat. You can still beat it. There's still bad draws. There's still counter decks you can kind of build. But Skull enables the entire class to work so effectively and lets them use these incredibly effective tools. If Skull was changed, I don't know how it would change it because it's just so busted. It used to be 5 mana. Thank God it's 6 mana now, but I still think it's too busted at 6 mana. It's just crazy. I actually, one of my friends, Villain, big Hearthstone grinder, he actually made a suggestion that might not be a bad idea, and that's what if you make Skull's discount only applicable on the turn that you play the Skull? That would obviously kill some cool combo decks, which I'm not for, because I really think the Elganoth OTK deck is really cool and hard to pilot. But I don't know how to change Skull, because I think it's very not okay right now in its current state, and I'm incredibly disappointed that they didn't change it. I'm incredibly disappointed, because these changes might fine-tune the win rates a bit more, but this does not solve the issue. It just doesn't solve the issue, and that's why I'm so upset about this. I'm glad that they're listening, and I'm glad that they're looking and trying to make changes. I do not think these are the correct changes to make. That being said, If, you know, a week from now we look at win rates and then Demon Hunter is now kind of in line with everything else, and not just win rates, but also in terms of play rates, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but I think Skull is and will continue to be a long-term issue until it's changed. And even if they do change it so Skull rotates or something, just because a card rotates doesn't mean that it should stay broken for so long, you know? I don't know. I think Skull is the problem. Other cards can still be too strong and may require fine-tuning, but they haven't addressed Skull, and I think Skull is the biggest issue across all of the Demon Hunter archetypes, and will continue to be in every single Demon Hunter deck until the card is changed or it rotates. So yeah, bunch of cool stuff in this patch. I actually really like these bottom 3 changes that they made. Honestly, these changes aren't bad too, but these 3 changes don't fix the main issue that I see with Demon Hunter decks. Yeah, cool. Thanks for watching. Smash that subscribe button. Yeah. Okay.